good to be back again tonight, and our topic is cancer. And cancer is on the rise, as we will see from some of this scientific evidence here. So again, I'm going to expound on the 8 laws of health that are our doctors, and that is nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. And these are, if all of them will be completely understood, and we can think we might be doing it right, but there are some principles that we can find in the laws of life. If we're not getting nutrition, if we're eating white sugar instead of, where they come from, like beet juice, or if we're eating white sugar instead of cane juice, then we're not getting the nutrients, and we're going to go into that a little bit. Okay, so in the deadly afflictions, this was taken in 2007, cancer was the second cause of death, 562,875 per year. And in men, men get cancer a little bit more than women do, 31% for the lungs, and for the women it's 27%, all the way down to the brain and the kidneys. For some reason, it looks like the men don't get brain cancer as much as women do. And it's just different the way they have, that we're made, that we, because women have extra layer of fat, and so we're going to get more tumors than men, breast tumors. So this is cancer death rates by race and ethnicity, and this was taken from a 4-year period. And as we can see, the Caucasian white people, that's the first one. The second one is African American. The third one is Asian. The fourth one is American Indian. And the fifth one is Hispanic. And the lowest of cancer, as you can see, is the Asian. And this is because in Asia, they have more tropics, more fruit. There's a lot of people there that follow the laws of the Levitical laws, Muslims, and the Hindus are actually vegetarian. They may use some milk, but the Muslims, if they do eat meat, they cut off the fat and drain the blood, so they're getting very little of the fats that are the cause of cancer and the cause of, like we said yesterday, heart attacks. So there in Asia, you notice it's the least. African Americans, they like their fried foods and their meat, and so they are the highest in their death rate. And also they are, some of them, of the poor class, which foods that are less expensive are junk foods, fast foods, and they're very high in fat and white flour, white sugar, no nutrition. So all sites, it says 1 in 2 people will get cancer, the probability of getting cancer. So that's 50%. So the prostate is second probability of getting lung and bronchus. Colon is the next one, urinary and bladder, 1 in 28. So, but that shows that 50% of the people are either going to die of heart attack or cancer. Heart disease or cancer. It can be stroke or heart attack. Now this is women, so it's less. For some reason, 1 in 3 people will die of cancer for women. And these are some of the cancer factors. Of course, diet is up there at the highest. 60% of the cause of getting cancer is from diet, 30% from tobacco, and then the rest is alcohol, radiation, pollution, medication, things like that. Every 30 seconds, one American is diagnosed with cancer. Every 55 seconds, one American dies of cancer. That's 1,400 a day. And it's sad because there is an answer to healing cancer. This year, 145,000 women will learn that they have breast cancer, and almost 1/3 of the men who die this year will die of colon or prostate cancer. That's a lot. 1/3 of the people who die this year, the men. Mortality rate out of 100,000, okay, the 78. Out of 100,000 in Hawaii, same ethnicity, is 371. And a regular Hawaiian that's been living there, it's not from Japan, is 368. So there was a lot of Japanese that went to and lived in Hawaii so they could do this study. And it was amazing. When they lived in Japan, they didn't have the cancers, but the same people that lived in Hawaii got the cancers. Why? It's because in Hawaii they changed their diet. And as you can see, breast cancer, 335, those that live in Japan. If they live in Hawaii, it's 1,221. The regular Hawaiians, or they call them Caucasians, is 1,869. So it's a little less than the Caucasians, but still there's a great leap. Now, I want to notice something. Everything is less in all of the cancers except for stomach. 1,331 in Japan, but only 397 and 217 in Hawaii. Now that is because they have some very, very spicy foods that they eat that irritates the stomach and weakens the stomach. And it'd be interesting to find out what those spices are so that we learn to avoid them. And then esophagus, the same, because that is related. We have to swallow our food through the esophagus, and it gets irritated, and it's also higher. Okay, so another interesting observation is this cancer is on the rise. This goes from 1930 to 2000. And as you can see, up to where it's from 100,000 or 150,000 up to 550,000 deaths per year. And so there's another correlation to this, and that is almost the same line of increase, and that is the fat consumption. And like I was talking yesterday, that fat, heavy foods, concentrated foods, a lot of cooked food with no raw food, these all clog up the system. Exercise helps to release it. Water helps to move it, but diet plays a lot in this. And so we want to know how we can enjoy our food without having to pour on the olive oil, the butter, the mayonnaise, the salad dressings. What else is there? The things that taste so good. And yes, we can use nuts. And we can use, like I used today in that cooking class, chia seed. Chia seed is high in omega-3 fatty acids, opens up the blood vessels, and brings in a lot of bulk without having a lot of concentrated protein, fat, calories, and it tastes good. So chia is a good food to make it like a filler. And we will go into a lot more in the cooking classes in how to replace these delicious mayonnaise, what do they call that? Margarines, things like this, with the foods that are not going to clog up the system, not so high in fat. Because there's a direct correlation from 1910, 1920, it went straight up to 1990 in the fat consumption, just like the cancer. Now, it's interesting to find, it didn't used to have hospitals for cancer for children, but they do now, because cancer's on the rise with children, because children are, parents are both working now. They have to supply the children food, and they want to make something fast that tastes good that they'll eat. So it's a lot of junk food, a lot of chips, a lot of peanut butter, a lot of heavy foods that they like. But just because they like them doesn't mean that they should eat them. Okay, and leukemia is the leading cause of childhood cancer in death. And there's a reason for this. We're going to go into why are these children getting leukemia. Now, there's a direct correlation between how much meat we eat to how much cancer people have. And those that eat meat, beef, pork, or lamb, is what I'm talking about, have zero risk of getting cancer. Less than once per month. Okay, so once per month to once per week, there's a 39% increase chance of getting it. 2 to 4 times per week, 50% chance. 5 to 6 times per week, 84%. Daily or more, like if you're getting it twice a day, especially, it's 149. So that is quite interesting. Now, this isn't just some numbers somebody put up here. These have been scientifically proven, and this is in the book called Proof Positive by Neil Nedley. It came out in 2000. That's why we have a lot of slides from him. They're a little bit older, but I want to see if he's got an update for his book. Interesting, very interesting book to have. Okay, so now we have a talk about the cancer virus that is in animals. Dairy farmers, poultry farmers, and especially milk. In 1975, it says, back in 1975, and we know things are a lot more contaminated now, it says 7 in 10 cartons had cancer virus. And more than 30 human diseases are traced to milk. In 1975, 7 in 10 eggs had cancer virus. 1985, nearly 100% had cancer virus. I remember this time we had, my husband and I started out in 1975, we had goats and chickens, and we raised them ourselves, very healthy. And when we found out this information, that was about the time when we decided no more milk and eggs. It was goat's milk. And so 1977 was about the time that we went total vegetarian, no more milk, eggs. We'd already been off of meat for like 6 years. And so it was, I remember when this information came out. Now, the correlation with meat and dairy products with breast cancer. And so if you eat it, the dairy less than once, and that is per week. Meat, it's 1% risk. Eggs, 1. Cheese, 1. 2 to 4 times a week. 2.55, 1.91 for eggs, and 3.23 for the cheese. And of course, if you eat it daily, it goes up. So this is almost 4 times the risk with meat if you eat it daily. For eggs, 3 times, and cheese also 4 times. A certain research has come out and warns us of cancer risk in dairy foods. As reported in a January 23, 1998 article in Science, men with high blood levels of the naturally occurring hormone insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, are over 4 times more likely to develop full-blown prostate cancer than are men with lower levels. And 1998 report appears unaware of the fact that the entire U.S. population is now exposed to high levels of IGF-1 in dairy products. The Food and Drug Administration approved the sale of unlabeled milk from cows injected with Monsanto's genetically engineered bovine growth hormone. Most critically, RBGH milk is supercharged with high levels of abnormally potent IGF-1, up to 10 times the levels in natural milk and over 10 times more potent. So this is why so many people have the prostate cancer, the breast cancer. So this again is trends in children. Now the purple is from 1997 to 74. The red is 75 to 80. The green is 88 to 94. And then the gold is 95 or 99 to 200. And as you can see, it's all on the rise for children, especially 6 to 11 years old. That's interesting. Just before puberty.
I think that fast foods are a major contributor to this epidemic.
In 2000, Dr. David Satcher became the first Surgeon General to draw attention to the obesity crisis, declaring it a national epidemic.
Now remember, we're supersizing everything. Left unabated, obesity would overtake smoking as a leading preventable cause of death in this country. One of the most disturbing things to me is that in the last 20 to 25 years, we've actually seen a doubling of overweight and obese children and adolescents.
Okay, did you hear that? Preventable cause. Overtakes smoking. And it has, because this was a while back. Okay, so on any given day, and why am I talking about obesity? You're going to find out, because those that are overweight, and depends on how much overweight, your chances of getting cancer just skyrockets. Okay, on a given day, 29% of men and 44% of women are trying to lose weight. And it's a $33 commercial diet industry. And a lot of people are making money off of it because they want to lose weight. They don't know what to do, so they try this and they try that. But you come to White Creek, you'll lose up to, well, it depends on if you have kidney failure or if you have a lot of edema or inflammation, you could lose up to 2 to 3 pounds a day. But normally it's a half a pound to a pound a day if you're not suffering from a water retention problem. So from 1986 to 2000, the prevalence of Americans with a body mass of 40 or above, 100 pounds overweight, quadrupled. So that was from 86 to 2000, and I know it's more now. And I know the 3 leading states that have the most obesity is Louisiana, Alabama, and West Virginia. And from 1986 to 2000, the prevalence of Americans with a body mass of 40 quadrupled from 1 in 200 to 1 in 50. So a lot more. Okay, so this is the correlation of obesity with the risk of getting cancer. And as you can see, if you're 20 to 30% above the average body weight, you have a 10 to 19%, whether you're male or female, chance of risk of death percent. And if you are 30 or 40% above body weight, it's 14 to 23. If you're 40 or plus percent over the average weight, then it's 33 to 55% risk of death. And so as you can see, weight has a lot to do with it. And so this is why we need to be on an exercise program. We need to be on a diet program that's going to work. And praise God, He's given us that information and how it works. And anybody that wants that information is free. We don't charge for it. We don't make any money off of it. We have several volunteer workers at White Creek Wellness Center, and you can call up anytime and talk to us. You can go to our website, and of course the website is wcwctn.com. Stands for White Creek Wellness Center, Tennessee. So you'll lessen your risk of getting cancer, and if you have cancer, there's more answers for that if you have it already. So this is why the risk of children getting leukemia is so great right now, and because of the bovine leukemia virus that is in the cattle. So the bovine leukemia virus is present in up to 70% of U.S. dairy cattle. It can cause a cattle disease called bovine lymphosarcoma. And most bovine leukemia virus infected cows release infectious virus or infected lymphocytes in their milk. Okay, so this is a slogan they have. They had to change the slogan they did have. It says that milk is, I can't remember what it was, but they were sued over it. Oh, I know what it was. It's everyone needs milk, and which isn't true. As we're going to show you that you can live without milk, and probably even better. I'm not going to say may. All right, so there's one thing dairy products have more than any other food that I can think of, and that is contamination. So here is a correlation of cancer and the use of dairy. And we know in Thailand, there's a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables. And Japan also, they eat very little meat, so much fruits and vegetables. Mexico also, all those countries that are near the equator that grows all those pineapples and papayas, and they live on those, they are so much better. Even though they might think that they're not as good as we are, or have it as good as we are here. I sometimes long to be in a place like that where I can get some good fruit. But as we can see in India also, a lot of Hindus that are vegetarians. But then you look at Switzerland, Denmark, the U.S. These are where the dairy consumption is the greatest. And so there's a great correlation to the consumption of dairy and the increase of breast cancer. And there is bacteria in milk, and you'll be surprised how much there is. They regulate it and they count it. It says a U.S. Public Health Service regulation says milk after pasteurization should contain no more than 20,000 bacteria per milliliter of milk and no more than 10 chloroform bacteria per milliliter. And so what does that add up to? That's 5 million bacteria and 2,500 chloroform bacteria per glass of milk, because a milliliter is very little. And so you do the multiplication, this is what you're getting.
By 1975, Dr. Campbell was at Cornell University, investigating what he'd discovered in the Philippines.
Our work from the beginning was designed, in a sense, to do two main things. One, I wanted to replicate, if possible, the Indian work, because it was so provocative. Secondly, if this is really true, I wanted to study how does it work.
Just like the Indian researchers, Campbell fed half the rats in his study a diet of 20% casein, the main protein in dairy products. The other half was fed only 5% casein. Over the 12 weeks of the study, the rats eating the higher protein diet had a greatly enhanced level of early liver cancer tumor growth. On the other hand, all of the rats eating only 5% protein had no evidence of cancer whatsoever. But Dr. Campbell decided to take these findings a step further. This time, instead of keeping his test rats on the same diet throughout the study, he kept them in one group and switched their diets back and forth between 5 and 20% dairy protein, doing so at 3-week intervals. The results were astonishing. Whenever the rats were fed 20% protein, early liver tumor growth exploded. But when the same rats were given 5% protein, tumor growth actually went down.
I mean, this was so provocative, this information. We could turn on and turn off cancer growth just by adjusting the level of intake of that protein. Going from 5% to 20% is within the range of American experience. The typical studies on chemical carcinogens causing cancer are testing chemicals at levels maybe 3 or 4 orders of magnitude higher than we experience.
Even more surprisingly, Dr. Campbell discovered that a 20% diet of plant proteins from soybeans and wheat did not promote cancer.
Okay, good news. We can go without. And so let's take a look at cheese. What is so wrong about cheese? And don't worry, we make a delicious cheese. It's vegetarian, and it will be in the lasagna and on the pizza. And you can make grilled cheese sandwiches with it and use it as on tacos for taco salads. It says Americans eat an average of 30 pounds a year. FDA allows as much as 750 million pus cells in every 2 pounds of milk. It takes 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese, which equals 7.5 billion pus cells per 1 pound of cheese. Let's just try to think about this every time you want to eat cheese, and it'll help if you want to stop, that is. If your 1 pound of cheese is sliced into 16 slices, that is 468 million pus cells per slice. 80% of the protein in milk consists of casein. Casein is the glue that holds the label to a bottle, or the glue to hold furniture together. And what does that do? Yes, causes constipation. So how can we successfully replace the calcium? Because this is one thing that, milk has calcium. We need calcium. So what can we do to get the calcium? So here is a chart showing the different foods that you can eat that are high in calcium. And as you can see, carob flour is the second one from the end. And it's up there really high in calcium. So carob is a wonderful food for fiber, for calcium. Let's see. As we go, oatmeal, lentils, quinoa, 1 cup of quinoa, rutabagas. Now the greens, all greens are very good and high in calcium. Dandelion greens, mustard greens. Beans are good. Sesame seeds, blackstrap cane or blackstrap cane molasses, kale, turnip greens, nuts, especially the filberts or hazelnuts, soybeans, green ones, which you can grow yourself and then harvest them before they get ripe, completely hard, and they're still green. And you can cook those. They are so delicious. It's called edamame if you go to looking for it. Usually you can get it in Walmart and Kroger's in the frozen section. Edamame. So the green soybeans. We're growing some this year. We have a big field of them. Okay, figs. Dried figs especially are high in calcium. Look at that. Just 10 dried figs is 269 milligrams. Amaranth grain. Of course, the skim milk. There we have the level of it. It's up there. But look, there's still more that's higher than skim milk. Collard greens, and carob flower, and look at how high lamb's quarters is. Lamb's quarters is a wild green, and usually it grows in gardens that have been cultivated, and it needs rich soil. So if you've cultivated it and you've added some manure to it, you usually have lamb's quarters coming up. And I highly recommend you looking that up to see what that looks like, and saving it, cooking it up. To me, it tastes better than spinach. And you can even make it raw. A really good thing to make high iron and high calcium is to put these greens in a blender, like the wild greens, the dandelion greens, with some water, blend them up, put them through a fine mesh strainer, and add a little lemon juice and drink it. It gives you energy. It builds your blood if you have low hemoglobin, and of course high in calcium. And so this is just a little picture here. Cow thinking, oh, eat broccoli, not me. And of course, that's good advice. It says osteoporosis is a disease caused by various factors, one of the most important ones being excess protein intake. In virtually every study conducted, the evidence has been conclusive. The higher the protein intake, the more calcium is lost. So we think we're eating high protein food because we need protein. And if you looked at the constitution of mother's milk, it's very low protein. And what's protein for? To build cells. And who needs more cells built than a baby? And so this low protein diet is very good, and it's not going to harm us. So when you eat high protein, then it causes a lot of acidity in the system, and the body has to compensate that pH acidness in the body to make it more alkaline, so it robs the calcium from the bone, because calcium is alkaline. And so it takes that and puts it in the blood. So this is actually harming us to eat high protein diet. We can even as a vegetarian, and we're going to see the protein, we can eat too much protein. So cancer will not live in an oxygenated body. So if you've got good circulation, and this is what I keep talking about, the better your circulation, the better your health. Anytime there is a congestion in one of the organs, or the brain, or the vessels, that's when you have problems. So these are the things that cause the congestion of the system. It's refined foods, concentrated foods, that means heavy foods, foods high in fat especially, mucus-forming foods, and large amounts of cooked food. So the more raw food we eat in the state of just picking it out of our garden, making a salad out of it, the best. The fruit picked right off of the tree. And so what were we actually designed to eat? And this is found in the Bible in Genesis 1:29. And the very beginning, this is before sin. And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed." So the seed that comes from the herb, which could be like okra, tomatoes, they all have seeds in them. And it's an herb that bears a seed. Let's see, what else do we have? Sesame seeds, that comes from an herb. So that was given to us to eat, and which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So both of these things were what the plant just automatically gave. It wasn't something they had to dig up and destroy the plant, because in the beginning there was no tilling of the ground and destroying of the plants, and they were all just picking the berries, picking the nuts, the seeds, picking the fruit and eating it. And that's the ideal diet. My husband and I have been working with health guests, and some of them have had cancer. And God has given such great success with the program that he's shown us, and we give him all the glory. But can we? I'm promoting the fruit, a lot of fruit in your diet, because this is what cleans up the system. But so can we eat too much fruit? It says we don't have to guess. It's actually been put to the test. In one study, 17 people were made to eat 20 servings a day of fruit. Despite the extraordinary high fructose content of this diet, about 200 grams per day, or of the amount of 8 cans of soda, the investigators reported no adverse effect and possibly benefits for body weight, blood pressure, insulin, and lipid levels after 3 to 6 months. More recently, Jenkins and colleagues put people on a 20 serving of fruit a day for a few weeks with no adverse effect on weight, blood pressure, or triglycerides, and an astounding 38-point drop in LDL. So fruit diet has never hurt anyone. And like I was talking yesterday, there are things that can help to clean up our system. And in the lymphatic system is where we will have tumors, the growth of tumors. And so if we can clean up this lymphatic system, the tumors can disappear. And so these are some of the foods that are very high in the sourness that will help to emulsify the fats in our system, to clean up the lymphatic system, and which is berries, citrus, sour apples, not necessarily, I'm not talking about unripe fruit. The fruit needs to be fully ripe, but not at all decayed. And so sour, ripe apples, oranges, pineapple, kiwi, soursop, which is specific. Soursop is a specific fruit for cancer. It's hard to find here because it grows in the tropics and it does not keep in shipping. But down south in Florida, I've seen it. And of course, in overseas, in those countries that grow it, I've eaten it, and it's very sour, but it's very sweet too. So pomegranates are good. Jackfruit is good. Pomelo. So that's the list of the fruits that help to clean up the lymphatic system and is especially good for cancer. Because I know you want some hands-on things. You want to hear, well, those statistics are obvious. Okay, people are dying of cancer. What do I do? My personal experience, I was having some skin cancers. And 95% of the population gets a skin cancer. These are not a fatal cancer. They're not going to kill you. But they're nuisance. And when I found out about it, I decided I was going to try going on a cancer diet. And so I went on total raw food. And I did this off and on for a month here and a month there and 50 days here. One time I did it for 3 years because I felt so good on the diet. I wanted to see if I could long-term do it. It really was very good for my health. I can tell you, my hair used to be up to here, and it just stopped growing. I started looking kind of haggard, and I was really concerned, and maybe I had some other kinds of cancers too. So that's why I decided to go on that 3-year, or however long I could go. I started out saying, I'm just going to go as long as I can. And within a year, my hair started growing. So this diet of lots of fruit, lots of raw foods, cleaned up my cells so well that it actually reached the cells of my hair. And after 28 days, my eyes, before I did this, I couldn't see very well, tiny map print. So I said, oh, my eyes seem to be better. So I got out the map, and I could read it perfectly after 28 days of being on a total raw food diet with lots of raw juices. And so that was my experience. And also, I noticed my skin cancers, because sometimes they itch. And I can tell they're there because something starts itching on my back or my face. And when I would go back on the cancer program, they just went away. And when I started eating, maybe I was eating too much cooked food again, or too much beans, or too much protein, they came back. So if I'm really careful and I eat lots of raw food, I can still have some cooked food, and I don't have a problem with my skin cancers. And I lay out in the sun because I want to get the real sun, the real benefits of the vitamin D. I lay out in the sun for, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day if the sun is shining. And so I'm not afraid of the sun. So that's my experience with, my personal experience with cancer.